Alright guys, Jameson, Alex here from Urge. We're going to be bringing you the next video in the Subclass series from the Critical Role subclasses on D&D Beyond. Unofficial as of now. So take it with a grain of salt, what you want. But the next one we're going to be talking about is the Oath of the Open Sea Paladin.
Yes.
Something that is kind of featured in the campaign too, just a little bit.
Yep.
No spoilers in there. But, well, if you're new to the channel, or the subclass series, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the abilities gained in this subclass, and we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained improve on the base class abilities.
Yes.
Also have a giveaway for the D&D Beyond Players Bundle, so remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below to be entered in that. Without any further ado, Alex, take us away.
We're back in the realm of Paladin, folks.
Yes.
We know what that means. Paladins have rules. They call them tenets. That each subclass tells you not only, it's not just a flavor thing with a lot of these other subclasses. Like, these are actually the rules, the principles, the morals that this subclass of Paladin lives by. Right. And if your DM is really strict about things, if you do things go against that, that's how you get Oathbreaker Paladins. It's by not living by your tenets. So, they are no greater life than a life lived free. Trust the skies, adapt like the water, and explore the uncharted. So immediately, it's like, if you don't think of a pirate, we can't be friends.
Yeah. The open sea. The open sea.
It's called about the open. So, but with that comment made, when we were reading through this and kind of discussing this, it did not come out mechanically the way I was thinking it would when I read through this. Because I'm thinking more swashbuckler rogue, in your face,
right?
Knock you down and be in your face. And it does some extra fun things.
Yes, some shenanigans.
Yes. And also, of course, being paladins, we do get extra oath spells. And it's a very interesting, both flavor and some fun spells they get access to. Create, Destroy Water, Expeditious Retreat, Augury, Misty Step, Call Lightning for a paladin, wow. Tidal Wave, Control Water, Freedom Movement, Commune with Nature, and Maelstrom. So you definitely got some Stormy Seas themed things, some RP spells. Nice good mix in there.
Yes. Then we have 2 Channel Divinity options at level 3, which we get access to. First is the Marine Layer. As an action, you can channel the sea to create a thick cloud of fog that surrounds you and heavily obscures the area for 20 feet in all directions, following you as you move. You and all creatures within 5 feet of you instead treat this fog as lightly obscured. Very important.
Very, very
important. It's opaque for people looking into it. They can't see in it. But you being inside and allies next to you can see through it as if it was lightly obscured, meaning it's just disadvantage on perception checks, essentially. The fog lasts for 10 minutes, spreads around corners, and cannot be dispersed. Also very important for like gusts of wind or magic things to get rid of it.
No gust of wind. No.
So that's the first option. Second option is Fury of the Tides. As a bonus action, you can channel the powerful might of the waves to bolster your attacks for 1 minute. Once per turn for the duration, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can choose to push the target 10 feet away from you. If the target is pushed into an obstacle or another creature, they take additional bludgeoning damage equal to your charisma modifier, which is not going to be high because you're a paladin. So charisma is not going to be your primary stat. Probably not even your secondary, or maybe your third stat.
It's good, probably your third
stat.
So
there's that. So if you want to have higher spell saves, I mean, you can always build differently if you want.
Yeah.
So definitely a nice, interesting option on there, but I think the Marine Layer is going to be more useful most of the time. Yeah. But sometimes having the ability to push things away can...
in these situations can be very, very nice.
Yes, for sure.
I think Wally Cody pushed him off the side of...
Yeah. Just come off.
On to level 7 with your aura. It is Aura of Liberation. You and an aura, while not incapacitated, you and any creature with your choice, that's important, within 10 feet of you, cannot be grappled or restrained, as well as ignore any penalties on movement or attacks while underwater. Thematically makes sense. Creatures that are already grappled or restrained, when they enter the aura, can spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape non-magical restraints.
Very nice.
Very, very fun. And of course, as with all the other, well, I think all the other auras, when you reach level 18 in this class, the range of the aura increases to 30 feet. There's one of those, I think it's Oath of Glory.
That's what I'm double checking. I think
where the aura does not go out to 30 feet.
Yeah,
it goes
increases from by 10 feet instead of... So it goes up from 10 to 20. So
yeah.
You're right.
Boom.
Good memory on that one.
Don't ask me what I had for breakfast. I wouldn't remember. And then level 15, we have Stormy Waters. You can call a crashing waters around you as a reaction whenever a creature enters or exits your melee range. That creature just straight up takes 1d12 bludgeoning damage and then must succeed a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. More on why that's lovely here in a minute.
Yeah. Then lastly, we have our capstone ability, as is normal for paladins, Mythic Swashbuckler. At 20, you learn to channel the spirits of historic sea captains to briefly become a paragon of heroic adventure. As an action, you embrace these spirits of the sea, gaining the following benefits for 1 minute. Climbing costs no additional movement, and you have advantage on strength athletics checks. If you are within 5 feet of a creature, and no other creatures are within 5 feet of you, you have advantage on your attacks against that creature. You can take the dodge action as a bonus action, which is kind of crazy. You also have the ability to have advantage on all dexterity ability checks and dexterity saving throws against effects that you can see. Once you use the feature, can't use it again until you finish a long rest.
Yes.
So there you go. Those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. So now we'll move on to the rating portion of the video. First up is the roleplay value, asterisk, as always. When talking about roleplay value,
yes,
we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order.
Yes.
Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background. That's on you as a player. Can't rate you, but we can rate the abilities gained and how they might improve your potential in those role play scenarios. So, with that out of the way, looking at the abilities on here, you of course have your tenets, which we have given all of the other paladins a slight little bonus on there for that, because the whole subclass, it's different than a flavor thing because your whole character is built around these tenets.
Yep.
And as Alex was saying, the DM can punish you accordingly if you do not follow the guides of your particular.
Because normally you're picking, like when you're making a character, you've got your bonds, your ideals, your flaws. Then that's designed more for character story, character background, where Paladins, like it's built into the subclass that you choose to play.
It's like a little bit of a level above all the other subclasses.
Yeah, it's not just your unique character story. This is the life you chose.
Right. So, looking at the actual spells, we have lots of options for RP on here. Create, Destroy Water, Just Retreat, Augury, Misty Step, Tidal Wave, potentially Control Water, Freedom of Movement, Commune with Nature. There's a lot of stuff on here that pretty much all of them can have some kind of niche use of RP. And then, of course, the Channel Divinities. The Marine Layer could obviously be used in chases, in escapes, in hiding, things like that can definitely be used. Fear of the Tides is a little bit more on the niche side of things, but being able to knock things away could come into play at different points in time.
Yeah, if you're getting approached, you're trying to be sneaky, it's like, who are you? And you just push somebody away and then you take off.
Yeah. But, yes, there is that. And then the aura, of course, could be really nice as well. Grapple to Restraint is a big deal. So when it does come into play, it is helpful, but more on the niche side.
Yeah.
And then Stormy Waters, even being able to knock something prone that enters your range, could definitely be interesting. Again, as Alex was saying, if like a guard or something comes up to you, just like whoosh, knock him down, go prone. So interesting stuff on there. And then, of course, if you really had to, it always feels bad to use a capstone, but if you really had to, you could use that as well for some RP scenario.
Yep.
So because there is a lot of it is very niche use.
Yep.
Kind of toned it down a little bit, and we went with just a 3.5 on the Open Sea Paladin.
Very good RP spells. Like it's a lot of that's coming out of
the spells.
The
abilities, while they can be used in RP, it would be more on the niche side of things, outside of maybe Marine Layer.
Right.
I'd say.
Well, with combat side of things, most of the spells are going to lean more toward the RP thing, but Call Lightning, Tidal Wave, Maelstrom, of course, Freedom of Movement even, does give you some opportunities to both manipulate the battlefield and get you a ranged damage in. As Paladins, it's only thing you really lack is ranged AoE ability. And of course, having access to Misty Step, if you want to make sure you close that gap and hurry, you're right there in somebody's mess is great. With Marine Layer, it gives you a quick look into the way this is built differently than I would have thought coming into it. Again, I mentioned it earlier. I thought this was going to be more of this hack and slash, get in their face to duel people kind of thing, but it does. But it gives you a lot of extra survivability as well, because if there's thick fog around you, heavily obscured, ranged attackers, archers, even spellcasters can't see you inside that cloud.
Right.
They can't. You can see out to them, which is great. But they can't hit you very easily in there. So it would force people who maybe would love to stay at range and try to pick you off from range to come into your world.
Yeah.
It makes you very happy.
Yes.
Because they're in trouble when they get inside your melee range. Fury of the Tides, yes, being able to knock somebody away from you can be helpful, but how impactful that's going to be on a reliable basis, like Jameson said, Marine Layer is probably going to be what you're going to be using more often. It's more reliably impactful.
Yes.
Ooh, that just sounded so intelligent.
And it stacks with your auras,
too. It stacks with the aura, too.
Yeah.
Most auras will be inside. We're going to get to that very next. So being able to, with your aura, just say no to grapples and restrains.
Which is free allies, too.
Yeah, and for your friends, too, it's like, oh, this big thing grappled them up. I would like to run toward them and get in range of this.
Step to them.
Or Misty Step to them as a bonus action. It's like, oh, well, at least on your turn, you know they're getting out of there. Because 99.9% of the time, if you've got a creature that can grapple, they get advantage on their attack. Probably they have multi-attack, so they're going to use one of their attacks to grab them, and another one like pat, 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 pat.
Right.
Yeah, so that's an absolute savior of a thing. So that's not only survivability for you, being able to stay out of it yourself, but party survivability because you're canceling out grapples and restrains for your allies as well. And as the aura grows at 18, just love it.
Yes.
Then, of course, at 15 is Stormy Waters, which personally favored ability in the whole subclass. And it's not flashy. It's not complicated.
It's not.
But it triggers something very important in the way the action economy works. So, you spend your reaction. It's passive damage for 1d12 bludgeoning damage. You're thinking, that's not really impressive. No, that's not what I care about with this ability. I care about forcing a strength saving throw to knock something prone as a reaction. Because that means on their turn,
you get to annihilate them.
you have knocked them prone on their turn. So by definition, it's going to be your turn again before it's their turn again. And if they're on their butt, that means you have advantage on melee attacks against them.
And your allies as well.
And any melee ranged ally attacks as well. So, yay fishing for crits with advantage for crit smites.
Smite crits.
And yay for rogues with their sneak attacks. And fighters too, because they get to attack 4,000 times a turn. So that's, yes. Again, goes to show you the abilities don't have to be fancy to be effective. Very much yes. And finally, with the ultimate ability, again, not getting a ton of offensive output here, but lots of survivability.
Right.
Kind of this weird passive of survivability. Not resistance to damage, but dodge is a bonus action. That's fun.
Yeah.
All attacks have disadvantage against you for
the round.
for every round, as long as you just keep using your bonus action to dodge every turn.
You're locking out your smites doing that, but
you're also not taking. You're not getting that
straight off.
Also, when you're 1v1 in somebody, which is good for your whole fog thing, you conceal them in fog, you run up on somebody, and they can't really see you inside of there, you get advantage on all your attacks against that thing. You're just, you and him, or you and her, you and it, whatever you're fighting, they're not going to have a good time there. Or if you needed an athletics check in combat, sometimes you do if you weren't already immune to grapples. That sometimes comes up, but not in this case. But it's there. And, of course, the dexterity saving throws advantage as well. So AoE spell effects, letting you have advantage there as well. Very solid all around the combat things. We're going to go with a 4 out of a possible 5.
Definitely, like Alex was saying, a little bit more on the utility side, I think, is the main reason on that.
Not a lot of raw damage output buffs, but, again, a lot of support for yourself and your party, what you bring to the table in combat.
Right. Then lastly, we have the overall class synergy. Looking at the paladins, the big things to work with here, you have your channel divinities, your spell casting, your smites. That's pretty much what the subclass is, or the class is built around primarily. So, looking at those, the channel divinity options are both interesting. Again, Marine Layer is probably going to be the go-to most of the time, though having the ability to knock stuff back can come into play, especially if you're fighting on a boat, fighting next to a cliff or a ledge.
I really didn't think about that until before you said that. I was like, well, you're fighting on a boat. Open Sea, knock something off a boat would be more reliable than it normally would be.
So yes, it can definitely come into play. But again, Marine Layer is probably going to be your go-to.
Yeah.
The good use of spell variety as well, with Misty Step being a big deal for martial fighters, can come into play a lot. Get into range of things can be very annoying.
Yep.
But another option you have to get into range of stuff is instead of running up and smacking it, you can just call lightning. So that's another option as well. Though that has to be outdoors. You have to have enough room to cast it. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But it gives you some solid versatility outside of just smiting spells and things like that, which is pretty typical for a lot of paladins to just take. Like, oh, it's a smite. I'll just take every single smite on my spell list.
Yeah.
So it gives you some more variety outside of just smiting everything.
Yeah, gives you some AoE options, but not with Call Out and can be hit in multiple places. And Tidal Wave and Maelstrom both do AoE effect damage, which is where Paladins are a little bit on the weaker side, is hitting more than one thing at once.
And I kind of think the last thing to mention on there with the synergy as well is with the Marine Layer and the Aura of Liberation, it's really going to make you into more of a tanky type of character, as Alex was saying. So with that, and then the Stormy Waters, being able to knock stuff prone and just wail on it, and of course the Capstone ability, you can take and dodge as a bonus action, you're going to be pretty tanky with that, and being able to control the battlefield quite a bit. So all of that together, we went with a 4.5 on the synergy, actually, just because we felt there's just a lot going on that's going to really give you lots of variety and different utility in the battlefield that other subclasses might not necessarily have access to.
Yeah. And it really does help attack some of the weaknesses that base Paladin has. Like I said, ranged AoE damage, being a primarily martial class for most of your damage, be able to cover the ground, but does give you a couple of extra ranged spell attacks and give you a ton of survivability. And if you're primarily a martial class, you're probably going to be trying to take some hits and some damage because you're going to be in there with a bigger health pool and a D10 hit die anyway, heavy armor. So it does give you both survivability and more reliable ways to get your damage in with the prone opportunity advantage on. Nothing's more fun than fishing for smite crits and sneak attack crits just because you've got advantage on your attacks.
Exactly. So that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications to know when our new videos are coming out. Always love to read your comments down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.